I can't tell you how many times I talked to people when I was struggling with breastfeeding, and everyone, they just kept giving you more suggestions. Well, hang upside down and massage your nipples and drink 15 gallons of water and make cookies and smoke weed. I don't know, whatever it takes.
Well, that's like a normal Saturday for you, though.
Sounds like
I mean,
wow. And
totally.
then you can get milk at the same time? That's a bonus.
And you can get milk at the same time.
Right?
And you're just like, oh my God, everything is falling apart. Like,
The millennial generation is as follows.
Welcome to
Surrounded by idiots.
Radio Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Surrounded by Idiots Radio Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Tony Dufresne, along with a couple very, very special guests, because we're going to talk about millennials and pregnancy and kids and social pressures and all that fun stuff. So I'm glad you joined us, and I hope you find this very informative, because I'm very much looking forward to this, being somebody that's gone through exactly what you guys have gone through, not from a female perspective, but from a parent perspective, and now my daughter's all grown up. And so the stuff that you guys have to go through, I kind of want to hear it, because it was a totally different world when I went through. So I want to introduce both of my guests. They've both been on the show before. Sierra's been on once. So Sierra, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
She's back.
I'm back.
And she's full-on pregnant. 3 weeks to go.
Oh, yeah.
Looking good, though. I love the shirt.
Thank
you.
you.
You have to see the video just for the shirt. I love that shirt. I would get that shirt for me if it applied in some way, but I don't think I could pull it off.
No, I don't know about that.
No, I couldn't. And then we have Mariah. Mariah's back. Hey, Mariah.
hi, Tony. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, you got it. And so just to kind of set the table, and I kind of want to step back a little bit on this show, because the show I really want to revolve around the stuff that you guys are going through. The stuff. Remember, and by the way, Mariah has a 14-month-old.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Mariah has a boy, and Sierra has a girl, and they're both named Logan.
Yay.
The best name ever.
Right? So go figure.
Perfect.
So I just had to throw that out there. I kind of want to step aside and kind of go through, first starting off with pregnancy experiences that both of you guys are having, and the stuff that you're going through in terms of just the social media pressures, the other people pressures, the all the stuff that you're hearing, all the different things and what you've had to deal with and what you dealt with through your pregnancy. And then transition into afterwards and kind of talk to Mariah about, the stuff that happens and the goddess myth that we were going to chat about. And then I want to reference a couple articles that both of you guys have blogs, and they're really good. So I want to reference an article that Sierra did, and I want to reference one that Mariah did. So first off, I want to talk about Sierra's blog and her entry, because she's like we said, she's right at the end.
Yeah.
And you've gone through the whole thing, and you're a trooper for coming in, because we're doing a little bit of a later show. And I know that typically it's about noon or 1 o'clock, and
Yeah.
you guys are pretty much donezo.
Pretty much. If I even make it that far these days. It's
Right.
like 9 a.m. I've been up for 2 hours. I showered, and that's all I could accomplish for the day. So, but yeah, no, I'm here, feeling good.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I want to. So you had kind of go through your so far, kind of what you've gone through, how it's been going, maybe some of the stuff that you've come up against, and then hit on. Your blog it's about trusting your instincts, and I would like you to talk about that, and specifically about you changing your practitioner like so late.
Yeah.
In the cycle here.
Yeah. So, I'm 37 weeks into this now, and it was pretty unexpected, unplanned, pregnancy, but we kind of just were rolling with the punches and super excited, and then it's kind of like immediately after you announce to the world and friends and family, like, hey, we're having a baby, it just is like a free market for everyone to just suddenly, tell you how you should be doing things and what you're doing right and wrong, and just like bombarding you with like so much stuff that, it doesn't even necessarily apply to you, right? Like, I'm a fitness person, I'm into personal training, and I work out all the time. And the amount of people who in the beginning of my pregnancy were like, take it easy on working out. Like, you just need to relax and all this kind of, and I was like, this is my lifestyle. It's not like I've never worked out in my life before. and I'm, pregnant, and now suddenly I'm going to try to start working out or something, or I'm going to do something crazy that's going to be damaging to the baby or the health of me or the baby. But it was just like so much judgment all the time. And you kind of want to just tell people, like, unless you just want to say congratulations, like, don't say anything at all, right? Like, if I want your advice, I'll ask for it.
I'm assuming you did not go that route, but how did you handle that?
So I write blogs as a passive-aggressive way to tell people to fuck off.
I love her.
And we are going to reference that blog here
honestly,
today.
that's what I tell people. I usually, in person, I'll just smile and say, okay, yep, like, whatever, just kind of take it with a grain of salt. But really, it's one of those things where unless I really have a question about something or I'm concerned about something, I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to people that I trust the most, who either have experience with kids, or whose opinions I just value, right? So having strangers come up and tell me things, or people that I'm not that close with, like, tell me stuff, I was polite, but kind of dismissive of it, of like, okay.
Does that happen a lot? And I honestly don't know. Does that happen a lot where strangers would literally come up to you, both you guys, and say, and just throw out their stuff to you? Like, oh, I hope you're doing, this and that. I mean, really? Like, people off
absolutely.
the street type of thing?
I mean,
Yes.
even, like, off the street, even, like, social media style, right? Where, like, on Facebook, you're announcing, like, hey, I'm pregnant, congratulations, blah, blah, blah. But instead, you have people who, like, people I've worked with, maybe 5, 6, 7 plus years ago, or people I went to high school with that I'm not friends with you. We don't have a relationship or any kind of, like, communication on a regular basis, but you feel, I don't know, if because you have a vagina and you've had a baby, that you, like, suddenly think that you can just tell me, like, oh, well, you should be doing this, or make sure you're doing that, like, you're gonna look back and you're gonna regret those moments that you did that instead of this. And I'm just like, get out of here. Like, who are you?
Okay. For the record, coming from the perspective of having already done that, not having a vagina, mind
Right.
you, but having
That we
already
know
been,
of.
thanks for that. that we know of. Coming from that perspective, and we always see, everybody has that one. They know what works because of what they went through themselves.
Right.
But it was just what they went through. So the intention, I would think, most of the time when people are coming up and talking to you, is to just provide you with congratulations, or it's an amazing thing, or enjoy all the small moments,
Right.
or you should do this because it worked for me. The intention is
I know
pure,
the intention is definitely good, but everyone is so different, and every pregnancy is so individual to each person. I mean, even in my gym right now, there's 3 or 4 girls that are all pregnant. We're all within a couple of weeks each other.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy, but each one of us have had drastically different pregnancies, and you could generalize all of us and say we're all really fit girls who started out, and we've all kind of had our own issues. Some of us have had medical problems. Some of us hadn't. Like, it's just, you can't compare to anybody what your pregnancy is going to be like or what it was like for them. And so I understand that the intention is good, and you're just trying to be like, I don't know if they're trying to have, like, this camaraderie of, like, hey, we all had kids, so we're in this new cool exclusive club, but, like, we're all different inside of that club. Like, so don't pass judgment, and just kind of, like I said, say congratulations and move on. Like, unless you have something nice to say, I don't really want to hear it.
See, I think the judgment thing is a big thing because
Yeah.
because a lot of people that don't, and I think maybe even consciously they come across thinking that they're in a position where they know more, and so they can say, well, you should do this or you should do this, and that's where I think social media comes in, and I want to chat with both you guys about this because both of you are millennials, and both of you guys are dealing with this way different world than I dealt with as a dad, as a potential dad. During my wife's pregnancy, we didn't have any of that kind of stuff. All we had was our small group of friends, and we went to the birthing class and all that kind of stuff. But that's almost like a group think anyway, because you're being taught the same thing,
Right.
and everybody's kind of along the same thing. Now, for you guys, with the social media stuff, there's so many different avenues to go, and there's so many different. There's the natural mom thing. There's the people that are super pro hospital. There's then you have your group of friends and stuff. How do you navigate all that social media stuff? Do do you have to block it out? Did you block it out, Mariah, or do you block it out, Sierra, in regards to just saying, okay, I know where my small group is that kind of get me more than the other people? How do you continue to be on social media and deal with all this kind of stuff?
You can. It makes you crazy. And coming from somebody who had severe nausea and vomiting for months and months and was like laying on my couch with nothing to do but scroll through Facebook and Instagram, you know what I mean? I feel like even though I knew it wasn't a good idea, I kept reading the articles and seeing the comments, and I got so anxious so many times. I mean, I literally woke up in the middle of the night one time and made myself throw up. I was so anxious, trying to figure out what I was going to do about my birthing plan, and should I get an epidural or shouldn't I get an epidural, and what's going to go wrong, and is it going to hurt my baby? And I lost my shit on a regular basis because of social media. It was terrible.
So what about you, Sierra? I know that we're going to talk about the birthing plan thing with the PA, but overall, just to tee that up, you know, how did you deal with it when you first got out there and everybody's flooding you with all the stuff and you were doing because you posted pretty regularly still. Yeah. I know that because I'm friends with you on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, and so with all that, do you just ignore it? I mean, does art have to talk you down off the cliff every night, or I mean, what?
I mean, I think that, you know, I kind of tune it out, what other people have to say on social media. I didn't know anything about having a baby before I got pregnant. Like I said, it wasn't planned. It's not like I had researched all this stuff and knew what kind of a plan I wanted to follow or anything like that. It was just like, hey, guess what? You're pregnant. And it took me probably 2 months just to like mentally prepare and understand, like, this is happening. You're doing this. Mm-hmm. Like, even though you have no idea what's going on or what choices you want to make and stuff. You know, people would ask me questions about my birth plan, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. What are you asking me right now? Like, literally clueless. And it just kind of over time, it was one of those things where, you know, I could look and ask people in my circle of friends or through social media, you know, what are some people doing and why are they following that route or another route? And then at one point, it was just kind of, like I said, following your gut instinct of just like, that route might work for that person, and that's awesome, like, and good for you, however you want to do it. But if it doesn't feel right for me, it's not the choice I want to make, or it's not the path I kind of want to follow. So, I think more recently, obviously, I was kind of faced with the gut reality of different ways you can handle, you know, going through the birth and labor process.
And that's a good way I'm going to tee this up, because you have a blog post. And for the record, you guys, I don't know what a birthing plan is.
Right, they probably didn't have those. They left it to the doctor.
You know, back before the automobile, when I had my daughter, we didn't have birthing plans.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the hell that is. So I'm going to be interested in you talking about it. So I want to refer to your blog post, and your blog post is called "Trusting Your Instincts." There was go through that and kind of go through what happened with the transition.
Yeah, so at 32 weeks, we had a doctor's appointment, just like a regular old checkup. We were meeting with the physician's assistant because our doctor was out of town, and I knew that going into it, and I was totally cool with it. And then while we were there, she was just kind of discussing, okay, you know, at this time in your pregnancy, it's time to get a couple of shots, and you need to get your Tdap, and you need to get a flu shot. And
Tdap is
Tdap being, it prevents whooping cough. So being a more severe, you know, something that I would say is a little more legit as far as following their advice, right? Mm-hmm. Like that can be a pretty serious thing. So I didn't have any issues with that one. But a flu shot, I was super hesitant to do. I've never in my entire life had a flu shot. Everyone in my close inner circle and family has never had a flu shot. I'm a relatively healthy person. I rarely get sick, maybe once a year. But I was willing to consider it because I was pregnant. And again, I didn't know, right? It's one of those things you can choose, you know, is that right for you or not? And I just told her, you know, hey, I'm not comfortable doing it right now, but, you know, let me look into it a little bit more and we'll kind of see how it goes from there. And then shit hit the fan.
And she said what to you?
And she said, so when your baby ends up dead and you're sick in the hospital, you're just okay with that then?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Like, word for word.
Yeah, say that again.
Not sugarcoating it. Yeah, she just flat out said, so when your baby ends up dead and you're sick in the hospital, you're okay with that.
Oh,
and mind you, my boyfriend
God.
was present at the time too, and he's a little more quiet and reserved than I am. But I think both of us were just so in shock that someone in a position of power and in a position where, you know, you're pregnant for the first time, you're scared, you don't know what the right choice is. I mean, even I'm sure after you have your kid, you don't know what choice is the right choice, right?
Never.
Like, you're winging it every day, and I get
Every
it.
day.
So when you're in a position like that where you're looking for advice for from someone who, like, this is what they do, right? Like, they should be educating you and explaining to you why you could make this choice over another. We were just so taken back that someone would talk to us like that we didn't even know. But I didn't even say anything because I literally was like speechless.
That's insane.
I am speechless.
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah. And I just was like, well, like, no. I mean, no, obviously I'm not okay with that. And then she kind of just went off on a tangent saying, you know, I'm just really big into vaccines and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I get it. Like, vaccines are important. I understand. But, like, it's a flu shot. Can we calm down here for a second, you know? So that really upset us. We left the doctor's office after that. And I think it wasn't until we were in the car driving home that it, like, really sunk in. And I was upset, like, visibly upset, crying for off and on for a couple hours after that. And then, of course, I'm in panic mode at that point, like, questioning, am I making the wrong choice by not wanting to do something like this? Like, with her reaction being so strong, right? So I'm texting all of my friends and family and, like, hey, did you do one, or do you wish you did or didn't do it? And just kind of getting everyone's input. And then we got to meet actually with our doula like a week after that. And she, just like everybody else, was totally in shock that someone would say that to you. Like, who? Yeah.
I think any reasonable human being would be in shock that anybody would say that to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care who you are. Like, just to say, like, you're cool with your baby being dead, well, probably not.
So
But thanks.
That's just fucking
That's
insane.
horrific.
Yeah.
That's just insane.
That's terrible.
So you thought that, so you went back and you were thinking that, well, you know, since my providers, my doctor's going to be coming back, and then I can just touch base and just to see, and maybe it's a him or a her.
It was a guy.
It's a guy, and he can calm my nerves and stuff, and so you went to see him.
Yeah. So 2 weeks later, we had another doctor's appointment. This time with our actual OB, and we brought it to his attention what the woman said, and he was just like, "Oh, you know, I'm really sorry that she said that." And at first was like, you know, being very empathetic with us and like, yeah, you know, that's totally inappropriate and unprofessional, blah, blah, blah. But then he kind of started to defend her, which I just wanted to be like, stop talking. Like, just tell me that you're sorry, like, and it'll make me feel better and, like, be done with it. And instead, he started to kind of defend her. And he compared it to, like, having too much caffeine or having, like, a Red Bull, where he was like, you know how sometimes people can just bring too much energy to a room if they've had, like, a lot of caffeine or something, or too many Red Bulls? And he was like, she just brings a lot of verbal energy. And I was like,
Verbal energy?
Like, verbal energy and asking if my baby dead is cool, or, like, totally not comparable.
Oh, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, so, you know, he kind of started to defend her and say, you know, like, she's a reflection of me, and, you know, I'm sorry that happened. You know, I'll talk to her. And it was kind of, he was like, oh, you're probably not the first couple she said that to. And I was like, well, why would you keep someone like that around if I'm probably not the first person she said that to? So that upset me. But then immediately before he raced out of the room, we tried to ask him, you know, because at that point I'm 34 weeks pregnant now. And I was like, hey, we still haven't had a chance to kind of discuss a birth plan. Is that something we can go over? Like, whether now or, you know, when are we going to go over that? And he was just like, yeah, I don't do birth plans. Yeah, that was kind of my face.
I can't.
Like, just shock of like, oh, you just don't do those? Okay. And he was just saying, I had a patient once who gave me a 5-page birth plan. That's unrealistic. You know, you can't plan for this stuff. We'll just do whatever's best for you and the baby. But if it makes you feel better to write one, you can write one up and I'll take a look at it. And I was just kind of like, oh, so if
what
I
a condescending asshole.
Yeah, I was like, so if I feel like writing one up because it makes me feel better, you'll glance at it, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're going to do whatever you feel like doing, right? It's pretty much the vibe I got.
Right. But then he kept talking.
Yeah.
And then he started talking about
the money. Yeah.
No.
So when
it just gets better.
Yeah, he was like,
Yeah, it just
he
gets
was just
better.
like, I'm really glad, you know, that what she said to you in that you know, situation didn't sway you from leaving the practice, because, you know, she's an extension of me, and if she's saying that kind of stuff, it's shooting me in the foot, and, you know, that's money out of my pocket. And I was just like, all right, so
Okay, well,
I'm ready to go now.
he's a caveman.
Yeah,
Good.
so we left, and I pretty much just looked at my boyfriend and was just like, I don't know what we're going to do from here. Like, I didn't have a plan, but my plan was I'm never coming back here again. I'm not talking to this man again or being part of this practice again. And then from there, we were just like, all right, panic mode can set in now. I'm going to freak out because I'm 35 weeks pregnant. I have no doctor or provider or anything. And yeah, so that's how that went.
God.
How'd you handle it?
I actually reached out to some friends. I kind of never felt like a hospital situation was ideal for me to begin with. I'm not a fan of hospitals. Again, I've never been to a hospital other than when someone was dying. So I don't really have any good memories associated with that. And doctors just make me uncomfortable. Before I was pregnant, I hadn't been to a doctor in 6 years. So not to say that that's a good thing. Don't follow what I do necessarily, but...
it depends if you needed to go or not.
Right, you know.
Yes.
But yeah.
Massive laceration and you scotch tape and,
yeah, it's totally fine. I'll be all right.
Yeah, you'll be good. Yeah, be good.
But yeah, so I just, I never feel comfortable in those situations. So I kind of always was like, in the back of my mind, kind of leaning more towards like a birth center. I wasn't quite sure if like a home birth was something that I was comfortable with. Not because I have any, like, not because I don't think that they're safe or okay for people to do. But like my house is not relaxing for me. I got 3 dogs running around like crazy. Like I don't need to be giving birth with them going crazy. But I felt like a birth center would give me kind of that same relaxing vibe. With obviously without the dogs running around and being crazy, and I don't have to clean up the mess afterwards. So.
Now, which is a plus, yeah, or nobody else has to clean up the mess. Now, in a birthing center, and I don't want to go way into this, but this is just from my own thing. In a birthing center, is that like a medical environment that's not a hospital? I mean, do you get the chance to get epidurals? Is it like a water birthing thing? Is it a
no? So they don't have any pain medication on hand at all.
Okay.
So it's definitely all natural as far as that goes. Medically, they have stuff in case something were to happen. To slow hemorrhaging or things like that. They have stuff to be able to resuscitate the baby should something be wrong with her when she's born. So that kind of stuff, they're able to provide medical intervention for that. But as far as pain management and that kind of thing, they don't have that. I'm working with a midwife. The nice thing, it's really small birthing center. There's only 2 midwives. So I've met both of them, and I'll have whoever I end up having who's on call when I go into labor, but they'll be with me throughout the entire process where, when you're in a hospital setting, you have nurses coming and going, who knows which doctor you're going to actually end up with.
Yeah, that's true.
And all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to be probably going like the water birth route.
Okay.
Unless I'm flailing around like a fish in there, and then I'm like, all right, just kidding, get me out of this thing. But we'll see.
Might as well give it a shot.
We'll wing it.
So Mariah, I don't recall what your process was through that. What was yours?
So I did give birth in a hospital, but I did all natural and had a doula. And so I stayed. I was the same way. I would have given birth in my home if I could have, because I knew it would be more relaxing and better for my body. But I was also afraid to do that just because I thought, oh God, what if something goes wrong? And I loved my doctor, whatever. So I got a doula and I stayed at home for the first 11 hours or so, and then went to the hospital like right at the bitter end and had the baby. So it was sort of like a nice in between, kind of got the best of both worlds for me, because I am medical, I'm a nurse, so I have that way of thinking. But then I'm also like, I did my prenatal yogas and my meditations, and I wanted to like do things as naturally as I could.
Sure. Okay. So and it all worked out well
cool.
for you.
Yeah,
both you guys are vaccine people, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Okay.
The ones that I find critically necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because I have a good friend of mine. See, I'm very, very pro that, because my whole thing is, it's been around and it works, and we know that it works.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, but I know that there have been a couple issues that come up in regards to the mercury thing, which actually is not the case anymore, right?
No.
Right.
That is yes.
Yeah, but
No.
I know that because I have a good friend of mine that actually has a daughter on the spectrum, and so she did a lot of research on it, and then she seems to think that there's a lot given. Like, don't they give like Hep A or something, or they
give it young,
or Hep C or something? They give something to them that they really can't get when they're young anyway. So so that it's kind of a, why are you giving this to them now, or why can't you space them out more? I think that I know that's her argument, which I mean, I could be more open to that than the people just saying no, the hell with it, and then dealing with the whooping cough or dealing with measles and then infecting other kids,
Right.
around that, because I think that's insanely. This my own personal viewpoint. I think that's very selfish.
I'd agree with that.
For the common good, But then that's
Right.
But other than that, but that's all I want to touch on. This is not a vaccination show.
I'm like, Tony, that's you're gonna have some viewer
no
opinions
vaccination
on that
show.
one.
All I know is I had them all, and I'm semi-normal. So now I want to transition to Mariah, because she has a 14-month-old, and she went through the pregnancy thing, and now is in the infant/toddler stage. She also has a blog, and the blog's called "And Mango Makes 3." It's very good, and not just because I get shouted out in it, but it's great. So you, I want where you are right now, and really what the whole show is all about. And I want you to, and if you have anything to come into, because I'm still going to talk about social media and pressures and all, and people and all their bullshit stuff that they throw in, and they try to troll you and shame you and all that crap. Mariah talks about a couple things. First, she was talking about comparing, or does she measure up? And she had a blog about measure. Do you want to talk about that in terms of the comparing and overthinking, and the comparing is the thief of all that fun
joy.
stuff?
Yes.
Yes.
So I actually spent a lot of time before I went back to work doing a lot of comparing, and then I still do now, but I've gotten better about it. And would just
what are you
look
comparing?
So a lot of it was just, kind of listening to what friends were doing, how they were raising their kids, people who had lost the baby weight right away, or who were, back at the gym or running 5 miles a day, people who were working 40 hours and their house was spotless, and, everything about motherhood seemed to be so easy and so glamorous and so, just,
well, it is, isn't it?
like a Wes Craven friggin' film. Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed... Wes Anderson.
Yeah, it's all right.
I was
That's
like,
okay.
Wes Craven.
I was going to say it is very Wes Craven-ish.
It is Wes Craven.
Yes, it is. I think you're spot on that.
But
Freudian slip.
Freudian slip for sure. So I feel like I spent a lot of time going, oh my God, my house is a mess. I'm so tired. I'm stuffing my stomach into my pants. I have no energy. Like, I live off of chocolate and candy and coffee. And I don't know, like, other people just seem so natural at everything. Breastfeeding was easy, and getting your baby to sleep at night was easy, and everything was so easy and perfect and picturesque.
Again, but that comes down to the fact that they're only going to post that stuff when it comes out well, because they want, because that's it's the Facebook persona, it's the Instagram persona,
the highlight reel,
and Sierra, when the show that we did, that's what we talked about
right before I got pregnant.
Yeah,
actually.
right. Yeah, it was right
like
before
literally a couple weeks before. Yeah,
right. See, yeah, it was a couple weeks right before it, and that was about. And when Sierra was on, it was about. Because Sierra's a trainer, and it was about accepting your body and body shaming, and that was a great show.
Yeah, that was a good one.
But that's exactly what we talked about: the fact that you have all the fit girls out there, and they set these examples, and that's all they show.
Right.
You know what I find funny, and I'm going to throw this out to both of you guys. They try to be authentic, or they try to be natural, so they'll post the natural one, but the natural one will be the hair will be
like
messy,
perfect.
but not messy. Right?
Yeah, like they're trying to make it look
they're totally
worse than
Hi,
it. Like,
natural. Got my yoga pants on and my big sweatshirt. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Right.
People
No, for
buy into that
real.
it's such bullshit. But that's the type of stuff that happens, and that's the type of stuff that I never, again from a man's perspective, but me and my wife at the time when she was pregnant, and then when we had our when we had Rachel at the very beginning, we never had to deal with any of that stuff.
Thank God, Tony. Thank God.
I know. I mean, no, believe me. No, seriously. As much as it, again, I say the internet's it's like a gun. It could be good or evil.
Right.
You could use it to
Depending
protect
on the
yourself, or you could, or somebody could do some terrible things.
Yeah.
So but that's what it comes to. And then I want to transition, Mariah, into your thing about manufacturing memories, and I want to read a little excerpt from that, and then I want you to kind of go off on that. So Mariah says, a few days ago, as I detailed in exhaustion the day that my rambunctious 14-month-old and I had, Chris, her husband, stopped me and asked me why I put so much pressure onto creating fun to the point where sometimes it's not so fun. And when I said, I have to be a good mom and create magic for my baby, he stopped me and said, are you sure you're doing this just so you can, are you sure you aren't doing this just so you can post about it and show everyone else what a good mom you are? I thought that was interesting. So please,
very interesting.
Please expand on that and what you got out of all of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the conversation needed to happen. I think it was good. It made me angry, but I think that it kind of stopped me in my tracks and made me think about why it is that I stress myself out dragging Logan to, swimming lessons and music class and, hiking and all of these crazy things. Why am I doing this? He won't remember it. He doesn't care. He's having fun at home, banging with spoons on a pot. So why am I killing myself? And so I thought about it for a long time. And I think part of it was wanting, some validation for people to see that I'm, a good mom and trying, because I'm alone most of the time when I'm doing things with Logan. But I think it was also because in that same vein, I am alone most of the time doing stuff with Logan, and no one's going to remember those things but me. He's not going to remember what we did. I'm the only one. And if I don't document it and share it, it's like it never happened. That's sort of how I feel about it.
Do you need to share it, though, for it to be legitimized, or in terms of validate the fact that it happened? I mean, I think that's really where it comes down to. You can document it all you want. You can take as many pictures as you want, but,
I don't think I need to share it, but I feel like it's kind of my way. I mean, that's really the way I share everything with my friends and family, because everyone's so spread out these days. We don't live in a world anymore where everyone's on the same street and in the same town. So if I don't share things, I feel like no one's in the loop. Like, aside from maybe my parents and Chris's who actually see him, it's months sometimes before I see close friends, even ones that live in the same city. And it kind of gives me a way to feel connected to them. They share their comments, about what we did or about Logan, how big he's getting. And it kind of just makes me feel more connected to them and lets them know what we're up to and kind of, the kind of relationship we have and what I'm trying to create for him. I don't know. It's just a way of kind of pulling people into my world, because I never see most of them.
Is there a way that do you guys ever think about, before you share anything, be pregnancy pictures or other or afterwards with toddlers and stuff? Do you ever kind of go around in your mind about, what's my intention here? Or is there any forethought in regards to, who am I really doing this for? Or, I mean, what are the thoughts ahead of time when you do your pregnancy pics, or you do your, him out. That, by the way, Boston Logan, that kid, that kid has had more experiences and has traveled more than I have. And he's 50 years younger than me. So what's the deal, man?
That's awesome.
I know. I don't know.
That guy's amazing. And you talk about a dresser. Oh my God, the guy's unbelievable.
Not like
I mean,
me, I'm
seriously.
a slob.
But isn't
I don't
that
even have
always
a
the way?
bra on right now.
Well, that's terrific.
Oh, wow. Just being honest.
Everybody tune into the video, if you want to just check it out. But getting back to it, do you guys ever? I mean, does that ever cross your mind at all before you post? Like,
I mean, I think I post a lot of my stuff, just because I think it's really important to show the not so glamorous side of everything, right? Like pregnancy, for example, on Instagram or Facebook, friends and things like that, they'll post, like you say, highlight reels, all the good stuff, or their glamorous body in pregnancy, and I'm like over here feeling like a giant whale, and I'm like, can we talk about that for a second? And everyone's just like, oh, enjoy the moment, and it's such a special connection with you and your baby, and blah 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 blah.
Which is true.
Don't get me wrong. Like,
it's true, but do you really want to hear that at the time?
And to like an extent, like, yeah, sure, that's like a magical, special time, and I get it. But I'm also not one of those like pregnant chicks who totally love it, because I don't, and that's a hard thing for some people to admit to, because like people will judge you for not, cherishing every kick and every and I'm like, she's kicking the shit out of me right now. It hurts. It's not fun. Like, I don't like it.
Really bad heartburn, right?
Yeah, right? It's not glamorous. And I think that like showing that vulnerability and showing that side of things, like that's more in tune with me And so sometimes when I'm posting things, I'm not doing it for anyone else or to show or share that with like family or friends. It's more or less for me to help kind of mentally wrap my head around what's going on and what's changing and stuff like that. Because again, like you can feel all this stuff, but then sometimes I'll look back at an old blog post or an old picture I posted and I'm like, wow, remember when you thought you were gigantic and showing already? And I'm like, take a look in the mirror now. Like, come on, girl. Get it together. Yeah, right? Exactly.
So both of you guys kind of use it the same way then. And almost like to document it also too. And I know, Sierra, your whole business and what you even did before you were pregnant, it was all about really, showing the struggle and trying to show the fact that everybody has to deal with their own stuff. And there's a way to work through it. I know that's kind of been your whole thing. I mean, we talked about that on the show 2 weeks prior of your
to get knocked up,
right, of the knockup
right, yeah, exactly.
the knockup date.
The knockup date.
But that does transition me into the last part of the show that I want to talk to both of you guys about. And I'm just going to open this up to both of you after I read a little bit of this. Now, this is regards to a Time magazine article that shockingly I read because it came over on Flipboard, I think, is or just a HuffPost or something, or came over. It was basically from Time magazine, and I read it. I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome, and I sent it to Mariah as a show idea, and Mariah was actually reading it from somebody who gave it to her, like in the process of reading it when I sent it over. So I'm like, oh, we have to talk about this. So then I sent it over. So I thought it'd be perfect to get Sierra on because she's going through this same thing. She's going through this process. And I thought it'd be great to get her opinion on this. And so I sent it over to her and she's like, this is great. So this is a Time magazine article. It's called Why Do So Many Moms Feel So Bad About Themselves? And it's how a vision of perfect motherhood hurts moms. And they talk about the goddess myth. And the goddess myth in this circumstance is like as nature intended. And apparently, because I don't know, but apparently there's like a big movement in terms of the goddess thing and all, the natural thing and trying to be as natural as possible. But here's the thing that's interesting to me. That there's really what it brings up is it brings up these expectations for you guys. It brings up the expectations of, if you don't, it's almost like mom shaming. I don't know if that's a term or not, but that's kind of what it is. And if you don't, you put yourself in a position where you have expectations because of all the things that all these people are saying that you're gonna breastfeed for 11 months.
9 years.
And yeah. And you're gonna right. And they don't doing all that and being all natural and having the natural delivery. And then if you don't, then there's this shame cast upon you and your generations of your family, forever to come. That's the type of thing that you guys have to deal with. And then in the article it talks about one of the girls who really wanted to do all that stuff, but she came up with against complications, and she just had to have a C-section. I mean, just stuff kind of comes up. And then she had her lactation nurse and blah, and she wanted to do that. She wanted to breastfeed for a long time, but then it didn't end up working. Which my ex-wife with my daughter didn't work for very long. I think it was 2 months, maybe 2.5 months. Didn't work.
Yeah.
And then my daughter, when she had both of her kids, didn't work for more than maybe a month or two. So, and they went on formula. So it just is. But this is what I want to talk about. Now they had a survey of 913 moms, which was commissioned by Time, and it found that half of all new mothers had experienced regret, shame, guilt, or anger, mostly due to unexpected complications and lack of support, which is a big thing I don't want you guys to talk about. More than 70% felt pressured to do things in a certain way. More than half said a natural birth was extremely or very important, yet 43% wound up needing drugs or an epidural, and 22% had unplanned C-sections. Breastfeeding, too, proved a greater challenge than anticipated. Out of the 20% who planned to breastfeed for at least a year, fewer than half did. The majority of mothers in the survey, as well as those I talked to, this is the person talking, I talked to in dozens of additional interviews, pointed to society in general as the source of the pressure, followed by doctors and other mothers. Mariah, comment?
Yes, all of that, ditto. So I, especially working in a pediatric office now and being a mom, I can't tell you how many moms have to sort of explain why they're doing what they're doing. They feel like they need to justify every single thing. The moms that are supplementing with formula give me a dissertation about why, and I'm like, simmer down, sister. I did the same thing. I had to. My baby was losing weight rapidly, and I knew in my instincts, like Sarah was talking about, I knew what he needed to be healthy, and I was told I was correct. So it's awful, though. I'm going to tell you right now that the pressures are unbelievable, and everything that they make seem like this natural thing you should be good at, when you don't measure up in some way, when you have to have the C-section instead of the natural birth, when you struggle with breastfeeding, when you struggle with anything that everyone keeps forcing at you as this natural thing women have been doing for years, you feel like a failure. It's like how women who can't get pregnant feel when they're trying. It's this thing. It's this innate thing in us that we feel like, because it's this natural thing that our mothers and grandmothers and yada, yada, yada have all been doing, we should have no problem with it. And something must be flawed within us, or we're not trying hard enough. We're not, I can't tell you how many times I talked to people when I was struggling with breastfeeding, and everyone, they just kept giving you more suggestions. Well, hang upside down and massage your nipples and drink 15 gallons of water and make cookies and smoke weed. I don't know, whatever it takes.
Well, that's like a normal Saturday for you, though.
Sounds like
I mean,
wow, and then you can
totally.
get milk at the same time? That's a bonus.
And you can get milk at the same time.
Right?
And you're just like, oh my God, everything is falling apart. Like, it makes you crazy. It's like no one ever just says to you, you know what? It's okay. If it's not working out, be done. Move on. Because you spend all this time, you waste all this beautiful time that you could have, like, enjoying your baby. I wasted months bawling my eyes out on my couch to the point where I needed to go to therapy because I felt like things were not working right. I was so anxious.
Now, Sierra, did you? I know you're not there yet in terms of having your
Right.
baby and going through that, but have you touched on any of this stuff, like in terms of where you're at?
I mean, I think I have a plan, quote unquote, a plan that I would like to follow. Ideally, I think for me, I would like to try to breastfeed. Who knows if that's going to work out or not? But I'm also not opposed to not doing it if it's not happening. I think for me, I understand you can make a plan to a certain extent, but I also understand that sometimes you just have to roll with the punches, and you have to understand that that's enough. Like, that's okay. Whatever you have to do, as long as at the end of the day, you're taking care of you and you're taking care of the baby however is right for you, then that's, that's all that really matters. So, yeah, I mean, I have plans to hopefully breastfeed. I don't know if it'll work or not. I might hate it. It might be awful, and it might be a selfish choice where it doesn't even come down to like an inability to do it, where I'm just like, this is not for me. I don't have a paid maternity leave, so I have to go back to work pretty quick, or as quickly as I can afterwards. Things like that could affect how I would like my plan to go.
Yep.
And so for me, I'm just going to kind of roll with it. But I mean, I definitely have judgment from people, not on the after the baby's already come side of things. But like even just making my switch from a doctor in a hospital and an OB to a midwife in a birthing center and doing it that route. People can't just say that's, good for you. Like, I'm glad you're doing, what feels right for you and what you think is going to be best for you. Instead, it's like, well, do they have medical things, or what happens in an emergency, and what happens if this happens and that happens? And it's like, that stuff could happen if I was in the hospital too.
Right,
like I could
right.
suddenly need a C-section. Same thing is going to happen if I'm at the birthing center. If suddenly things aren't going right, they're not just going to kick back and be like, oh, well, shit's not panning out the way we thought it was going to go. We'll see what happens now.
Right,
It's like,
exactly,
okay,
yeah.
let's go to a hospital. Let's do what we need to do at this point.
Right, and I can see the benefits of hitching your wagon to a train that you believe in. I mean, if you believe in the natural thing, or if you believe in the hospital thing, or if you want to do a C-section, I mean, I can understand, kind of working with that line of thinking.
Yeah.
But it's the, and then what happens typically is, and I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong from both you guys, but when that's the case, you tend to gravitate towards the same people, or that's where your support group starts to form around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When that changes, do you find that there's an inflexibility in that support group? I mean, in regards to if you happen to take a different route, Do you have to kind of fight through those people? Do you have a feeling that if your birthing center, if there's, or the breastfeeding or the lactation or whatever the case may be, if it's not what you kind of expect and what the people around you expect to happen, do you feel as though you're going to get a little bit of pushback? Yeah.
I mean, I already feel the pushback from some people.
Oh, do you?
For choosing, a birth center over a hospital.
No kidding.
And then it's funny because it's kind of like they'll word vomit that stuff out and they'll say it to you, and then they kind of can see your face or read your expression, and they're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, and they'll kind of backpedal.
What kind of stuff would they say?
It's just, again, like the pressing questions of like, well, what are you going to do in this emergency situation? Or what are you going to do if this happens?
Oh, I love those worst case scenario people.
I could walk around and get hit by a truck, like
Yes.
walking back to my car after this.
Yes.
But I'm not going to walk around every day with this worst case scenario, like victim mentality. That's just
Right.
not who I am. So I'm going to choose to look on the bright side of things. I'm going to choose to, put it out into the universe that things are going to go well in the way that I would like them to go. And if they don't, I'll roll the punches as they come. But, I don't need negativity like that surrounding me,
Yeah, you'll never get away from the what if people because
Yeah.
that's the way most people live
Nope.
their lives.
Yeah,
and
right.
that's why my book is called Surrounded by Idiots because most people are like that.
'Cause we
now,
are.
Now, Mariah, I know your situation did have you had some modifications to yours. Now, when you did go through those modifications and did you get any pushback? Did you have to create a different support group or what happened after that?
You know what? I'm so lucky because I have really good friends and family who were very supportive and were always saying things to me like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. And if you need to switch things up, it's fine. Your baby's fine. You're a great mom. I was told that all the time. So when I went to different friends, regardless, my big thing was probably the breastfeeding thing because my birth was fairly straightforward. I didn't really have any issues. But afterwards, that was my big thing that I struggled with a baby who had a tongue tie and was losing weight, and I was very concerned. And so I ended up supplementing, and I was kind of struggling through the whole process. I was frustrated all the time, and it eventually got better. I stuck with it, and I made it for 8 months, but I really I felt like I constantly needed everyone's validation. I needed to talk to my mom about it, my friends about it, the doctor about it, constantly. And it was like I needed 5,000 people to tell me it was okay.
Because it was different than your original plan? Because you're kind of off and kind of, just vamping as you went? Is that why you were looking for a little support along the way like that?
That, and because I'm sadistic and I'm a nurse and I do things like research the shit out of everything, and I'm like, oh, my kid's going to have a 5% higher chance of getting leukemia someday now because I didn't do it right, and you just go crazy, right? So now I know better, but my hormones were raging and my everything was out of sorts.
Yeah, and I want to bring that up too because I think that's really, 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 really important. Is the fact that not only after you have your baby do you have to go through these alterations, these modifications, you have to be flexible when it get. I mean, and from a parent's perspective, I saw that happen with my wife at the time too. We had to be extremely flexible because it was totally different than what we thought. I mean, completely different. Yeah. But in going through that, not only do you have all that happening and things are an absolute shit show because your life is a lot different now because you have this new baby and that's like the center of the universe, then you also have your chemistry.
Yeah.
And, right? And all that stuff that you guys are going through and and I don't know if you call it, if it's actually called postpartum, if it's not like a pervasive thing. Is that just the process of just kind of readjusting?
When you're postpartum, you're readjusting. When
right,
you have postpartum depression or anxiety, that's different.
So I'm not talking about depression.
No.
I'm just talking about just your body readjusting afterwards.
Yeah, that's the postpartum period.
Yeah, not only it's like a shit sandwich, double layered. Yeah. Then you pile that crap on it, and you guys are trying to readjust just yourself and your psyche and all your chemistry at the same time, trying to create these new boundaries and adjustments and all that kind of stuff. I can imagine, because I have not lived that and I will not live that. I can imagine that's quite a fun thing to go through.
Oh, it's a blast. I'm going to give Sierra one piece of advice, and I'm not knocking this in general, like for forevermore. But when you're a brand new mom, don't join mommy groups online.
I'm so
don't do it.
antisocial anyways. That
Thank God.
sounds like a nightmare to me.
It is.
Yeah, actually,
'cause
you know
it's
what?
just
Yeah.
a bunch of chicks giving their opinion to you all day long.
I
Terrible.
actually made a joke about, like, now that I'm going to have a kid, I was like, does this mean I have to become, like, a social person and join, like, mommy groups and stuff? I was like, because I really don't like people. I don't want to have to do that.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
No.
So
yeah,
perfect.
it's
See,
kinda brutal.
there are benefits of not liking people.
Yeah.
There are so many benefits.
I've
Sit there and listen
I've
to
said that for years.
Yeah.
Right. I said, so let's wrap it up with some pieces of advice. And so I want to go to Sierra first, and let's talk about pieces of advice in terms of maybe somebody just finding out they're pregnant or going through it or dealing with all this stuff and the social media stuff. What would you suggest? What helped you get through this in a functional, positive, proactive way?
Honestly, I think it was just kind of learning to tune everybody out, and just kind of sit back and think with just my own thoughts and feelings about what was going on. Learning to ask for advice or opinions from people when I actually needed it, but only, asking those from people that I actually value their opinions, and everybody else just kind of learning to tune that out. And I think part of that goes back to, issues I've had before with body image and that kind of stuff. That was definitely the hardest part for me throughout this entire pregnancy, was just mentally adjusting every day, right? Because every day I felt different. Every day I was looking different. And whether other people saw that or not, the biggest thing that was frustrating for me was having people say, oh, don't worry about your body. Like, you're going to go back to looking great like you were before. You'll bounce back, blah, blah. But don't discount the way I feel. I'm allowed to feel sad, and I'm allowed to feel, different and trying to adjust to my new body and stuff like that. And that can be really tough mentally, and it can really wear on you and beat you up, especially if you're out there on social media comparing yourselves to other, pregnant women or people that have kids and moms that have already had their kids and stuff, and the expectations of, those shoes that you need to be like that person next door, just tuning all that out and just staying true to what feels right for you, doing it the way that it feels right for you, and at the end of the day, not really giving a shit what other people think.
Amen. Mariah, how about you? How about you in terms of the pregnancy part?
Yeah, same. I think that the more that you can, surround yourself with people who make you laugh, spend more time reading books and catching up on actual things of quality, and not just spending all your time perusing online. And if you're on bed rest, I'm sorry, and I know how hard that must be, and it's hard not to immediately want to go online and browse, but it just makes you more stressed. So avoid that, and also know that it's just a season of your life, and it's different, and it will pass, and it's gonna feel like it went by so quickly once it's done. And when you're in it feels like it's dragging, but in the blink of an eye, it's gonna be over, and you're gonna have your baby, and things are gonna start to normalize in their own way, and it's
Okay,
gonna be
and then all right, and now how about a tip coming out of that? Having the baby, dealing with that stuff, adjustments, transitions. What worked for you?
So, what worked for me was absolutely blogging, because that's my outlet. So finding an outlet, you're not going to have a whole lot of time or energy. So things that you can do from home, be it, writing or meditating or, watching funny movies, whatever you need to do, just an outlet to release when you're going through all these changes. That's always a really good thing to have. And the other thing is, know that your first 3 months after you give birth is like your fourth trimester, they call it. And it's true. Give yourself grace in those first couple months. You're learning. You have no idea which end is up. You're tired, and you're just trying to figure it out. And things will settle down. Like, the way I feel now versus how I felt the first couple months is so vastly different. Like, my energy level, my happiness level, my anxiety level, everything has just completely flipped, and for the better. So just cut yourself some slack. Just relax, eat the ice cream, let people help you.
One of the parts that you guys didn't touch on, but I think is really important. I think the reason why you guys didn't is because, it's kind of your life, and you guys have sort of accepted it. You guys both have solid men in your life.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I mean, I ended up,
It is.
for not only just for you during that period of time, but also for your daughter and your son too, because that makes such a huge difference. And I know a lot of people don't have the ability to have that, but that is something that should definitely be. There's a level of gratitude for that, and the fact that but it's good. And I know both of you. I don't know Art as well as Chris, but I do know. Both of you guys are solid, so great.
He is my voice of reason, and he brings me back.
Yes,
he is.
He reels it back in. He reels the crazy.
Literally, they are the same person. Chris and Art. They come from the same. They got the same thing going, and that's such a huge asset, and it will be going forward.
So yeah,
it's awesome.
So all right. Anything as we leave? I mean, we've touched on everything that I want to touch on. Unless you have any words of wisdom on our way out for anybody going through this kind of stuff.
My words of wisdom, mostly to Sierra and to anyone who's pregnant right now, is I know it's cliched, but I'm telling you right now, no matter how different things are and how nervous you are about doing things right or how your life is going to be post-baby, there is nothing better in this world than having a baby, having your own little baby. Nothing. Your body being out of sorts, your life being different, not being able to go to the movies all the time. I can't even describe it. You're going to flip upside down with happiness when you meet this kid. Trust me.
Yeah, and I don't want to interrupt you, Sierra, if you have a word, but can you please, would you like to share that thing about the dream you had? I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, so super creepy and weird, but
because it's about what she was just talking about.
Really cool, yeah. So actually, just the other day, I had a dream that she broke through my belly with her hand and grabbed onto my finger, which sounds like to everyone else so crazy and weird and creepy and disgusting. But like in that moment, she just like reached through my belly, grabbed onto my finger with her tiny little hands, and was just holding on. And I was like, what's happening right now? And she was just like holding on so tight. And then I suddenly woke up, and I was actually so sad because it felt like she had just like slipped away from me, and I could like physically feel the pressure of her hands on my hand. So
that's amazing.
Super crazy, weird dream, right? Super creepy to most people probably, but for me, it's just like the anticipation of being able to.
Not to people who have kids and have gone through that.
No, I noticed that the only people who liked when I commented about that dream were people who already had kids.
Yeah, because if
I feel like
you've
we're
been
on a
there,
different wavelength there,
right? And even from the dad's perspective, I thought that was great. Because I was totally there. Not in terms of the belly and all that kind of. Again, I'm not saying I empathize. I mean, I can totally sympathize, and I've been there and stuff. And having having raised Rachel on my own since she was one. Yeah. I mean, I got that other part down. Yeah. But in terms of all the stuff that you guys are going, that's why I just wanted to let you guys loose on this show, so you can talk about this stuff, and especially from millennial standpoint, which again I stress is so much different than how it was for us Gen Xers. I mean, a totally different experience because of all the things that you guys are dealing with. So thank you both so much for being here.
No, thank you. This is fun.
And for sharing your stories. Now, remember, it's javabud.com. You can find the video, which I will have posted as well as a podcast. And it's going to be on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud as usual. You can also go to JavaBud and get my freebie that I give away. If you have any questions, comments, or considerations, or any fun stuff, you can always comment. You can go Tony at javabud.com or on the video or on the podcast. If you have a question for either. Oh, please, what's the name of your blog, Sierra?
Thebodymovement.com. It's just on my website for my my personal.
So thebodymovement.com for Sierra's blog, and then and Mariah, yours is
and mangomakes3.wordpress.com.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks. So from beautiful Boston, Massachusetts, Mariah, thank you so much. From here in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona, United States of America.
Woo!
We say good night, and we're very excited. We're going to touch base with Sierra once the blessed event happens, which could be in an hour. We don't know.
Could be right now, Tony. Water can break on your couch.
Okay, show's over. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.